Hi there, and welcome to RCR's In the Room With, our new video interview series talking with entertainment professionals about their careers and what they've learned along the way to get in the room. I'm Stephanie Pichet, editor and publisher of RCR News Media, and I'm joined today with my co-host, Jordan Aquino, who's an actor and host of New Mexico Women in Film's Ready, Set, Film New Mexico, a digital video series that you can catch on Instagram and their social media channels. Today, we're speaking with the lovely Rebecca Metz. How are you? How you
I'm
doing?
well. I'm
Okay.
well. My husband, I just want you to know you're on camera for this interview if you want to be.
Oh,
Did he say no autographs?
Yes, he's very strict. He has a strict control on his publicity. I'm well. How are you?
So good. It's a little different interviewing you off the red carpet, which we have done a number of times.
Yes.
And so now we get to really have a good conversation without 1,000 other conversations happening around us.
And I'm wearing much more comfortable shoes.
Oh, even better.
Yeah.
So now you can't run away from us. Oh, maybe you can run away from us.
I could, but I don't need to because I'm happy and comfortable and sitting down and I have everything I need.
Perfect. All right, thanks. I think Jordan would like to start off with a question or two for you. The other interview she did 2 days ago was she had 1,000 questions, but we got through those really quickly.
Okay, great.
Shorten the list.
Just speed round.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, it's wonderful to meet you. And my first question is, what inspired you to become an actress?
I don't know, honestly. It wasn't like a light bulb. I saw a thing and a light bulb went off. I think it was more like a series of experiences that made me slowly realize this is who I already was, if that makes sense. Like I talked about the Muppet Show. I talked about my parents are both classically trained singers. So I grew up with a lot of arts in the house and a lot of performance and going to a lot of concerts and theater and all that kind of thing. But I don't think there's nothing I can point to that goes, I am inspired now to be a performer. I think it was just the one moment that I can point to is being a little kid and watching the Muppet Show and seeing all the Muppets backstage, like running around, trying to make things look cool on stage and going like, I think those are my people. I think that's where I'm supposed to be. That's the closest to a moment of inspiration I could come up with.
Gotcha. So you're a theater kid, born and bred, it sounds.
Yes, indeed.
Very cool. Can you talk about your training? I read that you went to Carnegie Mellon and your parents are both performers. Can you talk about your background in training?
I mean, I guess start from the beginning. My parents are both in music, and so I started early. I wanted to take singing lessons, and my dad, I think wisely, someone told him that for a little kid, singing lessons are music lessons because there's no point in training a voice that's going to change. So I don't want letters from parents if they disagree. This is what I did. I took piano lessons. I went to arts camps. I was in every like after school play and just every kind of like artsy program around that I could soak up. I did. I was, when my parents chorus did a musical and needed kids, I was in those. When I got to high school, there was, in my public New Jersey high school district, there was a magnet program with a lot of different disciplines, but I was in the performing arts one. It was called the Fine and Performing Arts Center. So for half of every day, my junior and senior year of high school, I bussed over to another school and did acting and dance and voice and related classes, which was amazing to get to do that early. And I think sort of gave me the advantage of being able to like know for sure when it came time to apply for colleges, like, yeah, this is really what I want to do. And I think I actually could do it. So then I went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, which was the like dream school. That was the one I made my parents take me there in 8th grade to tour the campus after an exhaustive research project. Like I was pretty obsessive. Yeah. And Carnegie is a old school conservatory program, rigorous, singularly focused, not a lot of other classes, for better or worse. Better for me.
Mhm.
And then since then, I've done improv and voiceover and skill specific training. But that was, yeah, that's my training journey.
That sounds amazing to me. Just
It's
fully
a lot when I say it all in a row like that.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love it. So you grew up in Jersey, you went to school in Pittsburgh, and when you moved, or I don't know, you tell me, did you start in New York or did you move straight to LA? What was the transition like from school to professional life?
I moved straight to LA, having grown up in New Jersey and, you know, spent tons and tons of time in New York, seeing shows and whatever. It was just like the closest city to me. And so we went all the time. I sort of knew I didn't want to go there, partly because I felt like I could always go back.
Mhm.
You know, it would be easy to go back home. And partly because I graduated in the late 90s and I could kind of see what I would do in New York theater,
Mhm.
and I didn't want to do it.
Mm.
And television was just starting to become what it has become and is continuing to become. And that was really exciting to me. And I'd never been to LA. And Carnegie does, like a lot of the big conservatory schools, does a showcase
Mm.
in New York. Ours was the first year. We kind of raised hell and made them take us to LA also. So, you know, this was a place I'd never been, and television was something I'd never done. And I was just excited by the prospect of doing something different. And so I came right out here after college.
Wow. Was it a culture shock? What was it like when you got there?
It was a weather shock, in a very good way. For, you know, Pittsburgh is a cold city. I love it, but it's cold, and this is the opposite. And I've never tired of that part of living here. It was a bit of a culture shock. Took me a few years to sort of get my bearings here and figure out. I think I've had this conversation with my dad. I think if you grow up near a city like New York
Mhm.
that defines what a city is for you, you're almost never going to find that anyplace else. So all my life I go to other cities and go, this is not what a city is, you know. So it took me a while to learn LA as a city, as a different kind of city, and to find my place in it.
Wow. So when you moved to LA and you say it took you a couple years to find your footing, did you start working as soon as you got there? What was it like finding representation? Did you take more classes? What was the experience like?
I did not start working as soon as I got here, and I did not get representation. I didn't get a representation off of the showcase process. I think I could have in New York, but I didn't in LA. And it took me about 4 years, I think, to book my first job, which had to do with learning the business stuff, which they really at that time did not teach us, the sort of networking. And so we had this, you know, list of hundreds of industry people, casting and managers and agents and whatever, who had seen us in the
Mhm.
showcase, but like, then what?
Right.
Yeah.
So it took me a good 4 years, and some of that is just finding a place to live and finding a job and figuring out how to pay the bills and finding a you know, some friends. And I joined a theater company, and just takes, you know, some time in a brand new place to get your footing, which I think is healthy to do first.
Mhm.
And then then I started to learn how to use that base of sort of relationship seeds that I'd established through that showcase process to start actually auditioning. And then you have to get your audition skills sharp, because that's sort of a different set of skills than acting skills, which I think a lot of people, you know, don't always realize right away.
Mhm.
And I think I booked a few jobs before I found representation, which I think is normal and not what people tell you to expect. So I think that's a big, you know, thing to understand. Like, much easier to get representation when you can say, hey, I'm booking stuff already. Do you want some of this money? Then hi, nothing's happening for me. Can you help me change that? That's a tough sell.
Right.
Uh, and then it was slow and steady. I worked full-time day jobs in LA for 17 years before I was able to support myself fully as an actor.
Yeah, I
So
think,
overnight, right?
Overnight, yeah, boom.
well, that's what everyone calls it. They're like, you're an overnight success. It's no, this has been years and years in the making. And no amount of schooling can prepare you for that. I went to theater school too, and I just had no idea what I was in for until I actually got there.
And I think they do sometimes try to tell you, like, they tried to say that to us, but of course we were all like, that's how it is for everyone else, but that's not how it'll be for me because I'm amazing. And then you get there and it's like, oh. And on the flip side, you know, there are people that I went to school with who came here, blew up at the showcase, had this incredible experience, and then everything came crashing down a few years later when no one was paying attention, which I actually think is a harder position to be in, because then you have to learn all that stuff without the support of all of your friends around you learning it at the same time. So I think, so one of my professors at Carnegie said, like, this is a cycle. Some people come in at the top, some people come in at the bottom. If you stay on it, you're going to hit every point. It's just a question of where you start and how long it takes you to get all the way around. So yeah, I'm glad that I had to learn that stuff early.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
And a marathon that you keep running over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's a crazy industry. So what are some of your favorite roles or some of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
I mean, I feel like I can kind of appreciate a lot of them for different reasons. In theater, I did a lot of small theater in LA, really fun, wonderful stuff. There's a company called The Burglars of Ham that I've worked with a bunch that just does funny, weird, dark, strange things. I did a show with them called Land of the Tigers and a musical with them called The Behavior of Brodus. Both were original. So like, I've done a fair amount of new plays and got to be part of the development process, which I really enjoy. In television, there's Nip Tuck, which is the closest thing to a big break that I ever had, and was just like an amazing experience top to bottom, and sort of changed me in a lot of ways, both from a career standpoint as an actor. And then it would be like Shameless is the next one that comes to mind, because that was the first time that I got to recur on something enough times that I started to feel like part of the ensemble. You know, for a long time, I worked on a lot of amazing shows where I would show up for 1 or 2 episodes, which is wonderful. But now that I can look at it in hindsight, so hard, because you're like jumping on a moving train and your whole job is to like not screw it up while you're there and then get out. You know, you don't get to really learn much about the people or how it works, or you just have to try to find a way to fit into whatever the specific vibe and world and dynamics are on that project, contribute to it as best you can, and then you're gone. So Shameless was the first time I really got to kind of settle in and meet people and know them and have them know me, and start to feel like I belonged, which the longer I'm in this, the more I realize is what I really want out of like that feeling of ensemble is my favorite thing about this. So that was, I mean, I got it on there were other projects I worked on that were wonderful, Nip Tuck and lots of other things, but that was a place where the first time I really got to be like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know everything about this character, and I'm going to learn more with every episode I do. And I'm learning more about these people, and they're figuring out what I do well. And then there's Better Things, which is a show that I'm still on that's like taken that to a whole new level.
Oh yeah, that was one of my questions, is what is it like to develop a character over 4 seasons? Because I think a lot of new actors, I mean, you hang out in co-star guest star land for a long time, and then what you've prepared for in college was, you know, you do plays, you do these big arcs, and then you're kind of a gun for hire until you get that part. So what is it like being able to develop a character over time? Do you influence the story of the show? I mean, how much do the writers take from you? That's lots of questions.
No, I get it. And I was just thinking about this because I was just talking to a friend that I've done a lot of theater with in LA about this. And I feel like, you know, with theater, you get a long rehearsal period, or at least some rehearsal periods. You get to do a lot of that development work during rehearsal, learn your lines organically and discover things. And I think the big difference, one of the big differences on camera, at least in television, is that there's usually virtually no rehearsal period except to set up camera shots. And so instead of all that work happening at the beginning, it kind of spreads out over the course of your work on the project, whether that's a day, which is a pretty tight time to make all those discoveries, or you know, if you're lucky enough to recur or be a regular on something over many seasons, you get to discover things. And I think part of that is, I mean, the writer, it's not like the writers are discovering it too, you're discovering it together. And I think the actor does inform the character, not in a sort of like, I think she should be a plumber kind of way, but they learn your rhythms, they learn your strengths, they try you out in new scenarios if they're good, and if you're good, you know, you get to kind of discover the character together. The writer, like on Better Things in season 2, my character Tressa had a girlfriend, and I was like, oh, I did not know she was a lesbian. And surprise. And I don't know if Pam Adlon, who is the writer and star and director and showrunner and everything, knew that. My agent was like, I knew that. I was like, how did you know? I didn't know that. You know, you and I think depending on your process, that can be difficult. I have never been an actor who like writes a whole big backstory for a character. There are a lot of people who do that, and I respect that, but I don't. I like to take it from the text. If it's not in the text, I don't commit to it unless there's some question that I need to come up with an answer to for myself, for my own work. But like, I don't need to know everything about the characters I play right at the beginning. I prefer to learn those things and figure them out either because it shows up in a script, or because somewhere down the line I go, I think she's got a problem with authority, or I think she's got, you know, the way you learned about people in life. So I enjoy that process. I think for some people, you have to have some flexibility built in. You may make some decisions or assumptions that later turn out to be wrong. And you just have to kind of roll with it.
Gotcha. That's so cool to be discovering things as you go along, and also a little bit terrifying too, but very cool mostly.
Yeah, but the kind of terrifying we're supposed to be good at, you know, the immediacy of discovering things in the moment. Like we all know we're supposed to do that, and it's like, yeah, but if I actually have to do it, that's scary.
Do you think that your improv training has helped you a lot with Tressa's character, or any character that you've played over a long period of time?
I think in general it has. I've taken a bunch of improv classes because I hate it. I love a script. I don't want to be, and I don't, you know, when you get up there and you're like, okay, anything could happen. I hate it. But
you're a banana.
Yeah. Ugh. But it's a really important skill to have. You know, even if you don't want to improvise, I've been on sets where they've been like, let's just do one in your own words for fun. And like, you know, I sort of would go, okay, I need to learn to not freeze in this situation. I need to be able to, and there are some shows, Better Things is one of them, where sometimes you'll just go off and banter. Sometimes they'll just, you know, Pam will just let the scene run, and the characters will just be together. And so definitely improv training helps support that, just being able to be present in that. There's also a show that I've done a bunch of times at Upright Citizens Brigade here in LA called Gravid Water, which is every show is 5 scenes. Each scene has 2 people in it, an actor and an improviser. So the actor memorizes one side of a theater scene. They only send you one side. And you go on stage, and the improviser has to doesn't know anything about it. And as the actor, which is what I do, I can only say what's there. I can only say the lines I've memorized. And the improviser is just improvising with me. And like, they don't know where my line stops and starts. They don't know where this is going. If there's a turn in the scene, I have to find a way to have it make sense based on what they're doing, and they don't know. Like, it's what acting is supposed to be. You don't know what the person's going to say next. You have to be motivated to say your next line. But again, it's something that I think often we don't necessarily do. And that has helped me a lot. That feeling of like, I really don't know what's about to happen. And I trust that we will get there. I think that's a great lesson from improv.
Oh yeah, that sounds amazing. Gravid Water?
Gravid Water. I don't know how they got that name. They have it in New York and LA when we're allowed to be in theaters together. I miss it a lot. It's a great show.
That sounds like an amazing exercise as an actor.
It really is.
Ooh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any parts of Tressa's character? Oh, I'm going to backpedal here. So were you doing Better Things and I'm blanking on the name, between
Coop and Cami?
Yes. Were you filming those simultaneously?
In one season, so season 1 of Coop and Cami, season 3 of Better Things, they overlapped, and thank God I had great producers and a great agent, producers on both shows who like worked. I can't imagine how much time they spent on the phone figuring out schedules so that I could do both with minimal conflicts. There were a few days when I went from one to the other, and it's like I would be in the car trying to make the character shift, the mental shift, because one is multi-camera kids comedy, one is very grounded single camera grown-ups, like those were it took a little discipline to make that shift. And then in season 2 of Coop and Cami, season 4 of Better Things, they really didn't overlap, fortunately. So I was able to mostly finish Coop and Cami and then go on to Better Things, which was easier.
That's a good problem to have, though.
Yes, we were trying to get me back on Shameless in the middle of all that.
Oh
and
my goodness.
Finally it was like, I don't think this is gonna work. Like, I'm so sad. I would have loved to do it, but that would have been really pulling something off.
That's crazy. That was one of my questions, was stylistically, how did you go from, family sitcom Disney to something that was grounded kind of dramedy? How do you change those hats so quickly? Were there certain skills that you fell back on or techniques?
I mean, I think again, because the way I work is to take everything from the writing, it wasn't that hard because the writing is completely different. And so, if I just go to the script, look at my partner, do the basic acting stuff of listening and being present in the moment, you couldn't do sitcom acting on the set of Better Things. It would be really strange, and people would be like, what's happening? Or vice versa. Honestly, it was mostly about remembering which set I was allowed to curse on and which set I wasn't, because on one set there's a lot of cursing, and on the other set there is none. So I was like, okay, don't get them mixed up. The fact that I booked Coop and Cami Ask the World, that I became a Disney Channel mom after being on Shameless for 3 seasons, I was sort of like, and after doing Nip Tuck, I sort of said, like, you guys have Googled me, right? Like, They were like, yeah, it's great. Okay. But I think for me, it comes from the writing. So it is, that is the support that makes it a little bit easier. That sound is the cat's automatic feeder going off. Sorry about that.
No problem.
We like cats. We love cats.
Good.
So let me see, what else have I got here? What advice do you have for actors who are just kind of at the beginning of their career?
I mean, I feel like it's sort of 2 different sets of advice if they're doing it now. We're in obviously a very strange time, but also times like this happen, whether it's a writer's strike or, there's always something. So, that's thing to know, number 1. You always have to be ready to roll with whatever is happening. It could just be a change in trends in the industry, For me, training, it all goes back to training. Have the best possible base of training that you can. I think a lot of people look at acting as like something you can just decide to do one day and show up and start doing it. And certainly lots and lots of people do that. But it's to compete at a professional level, you have to be among the best of the best. And even then, there's thousands of those people for every one job. So I think it just takes a little humility to understand that even though it looks easy, it's not actually easy. And so get the best training that you can so that you're not wasting your time or anyone else's time. I think people underestimate how much of being an actor is the business side, the not acting side, the hustling, you're running a small business. You have to have a marketing plan and publicity materials and business goals and understand who your audience is. And, I think it takes time to figure all that out for yourself. And I think that's okay. Another, probably one of the biggest things is don't wait for your agent to get you auditions. That's not their job. Actors get stuck. A lot of actors get stuck at the stage where they're just mad that their agent isn't getting them auditions or their manager. And so they keep changing agents and managers and it doesn't get any better anywhere. And they just get mad and never go past that. And the thing they're, I think, failing to realize is that no agent is going to do that for you in the beginning, because that's not their job to do. That's your job to make those casting relationships and to start generating work and auditions for yourself so that other people see you as an actor who is working and want to get on board. Like, I think it was only in the last few, maybe a little more than a few at this point, but years, once I had a big body of work, that I started getting auditions with people I hadn't already met and been, postcarding and following up with for a long time. Until then, it was really my own hustling often. My agent pitched me and they certainly, did their part, but they get 10%, I get 90%. So I should be doing 90% of that work.
Right.
And those networking relationships that you build, whether it's on set and they're another character, they're a producer, they're a director, whatever, that, and working with you and building that relationship can carry on to the next one and open more doors for you.
And I think, if I go back and look at all the different shows I've worked on, they can look all over the place to someone from the outside, but I'll look, and there are 3 or 4 casting offices on that list of shows I've done that are represented 5 times. There are directors I've worked with multiple times, producers, showrunners I've worked with multiple times. Like, if once you, every time you reach out to someone, every time you work with someone, you're moving that relationship forward. And if you can do it, make it a positive experience, if you can deliver on, what your job is to do there, hopefully you will have more opportunities to work with them. So, the casting director for Shameless also was ER. Southland called me in probably 15 times for Shameless before I booked the role that I did. Like, those are ongoing, long-term relationships that take time and investment and energy to develop.
Right. And because you're building that relationship, you can't be, upset if you don't get that part. And you can't let them see that you're really mad at them for not getting
You can't, yeah, because it's not about that part. Like, when this was a big thing to learn also. When I go in for an audition, it's not actually about booking that role, because I have no control over that. And it has probably nothing to do with me. It has to do with a whole bunch of things that they need or they're looking for in this particular instance that are completely out of my control. My job in an audition is to be someone they want to work with, they want to see again, and want to work with eventually once we find the right thing. If you can look at it again as a marathon in that long-term view and just go, my job in this moment is to deliver the best work that I can,
right,
and then forget about it, it will pay off eventually. But if you're judging every audition on whether or not you book the part, you're going to make yourself crazy pretty quickly.
right. Well, if you got in the room to audition, they thought you had something to offer anyway, right?
Exactly.
So that you're already going in with a bonus, right? You're already
Yeah.
ahead instead of looking at it as a negative and I didn't get this audition.
Absolutely. And that casting director, John Levy, of all the John Wells shows, says, like, if you're in the room, we want you to book it because then we can go home. Like, people think of it as an adversarial gatekeeper relationship, but casting wants you to come in, blow them all out of the water, and they can be like, amazing, let's move on to the next thing. So like, they are all rooting for you.
Mhm.
No one is your adversary, even the
Right.
other actors in that room. Like, the women that I have been auditioning alongside for years are
Mhm.
friends, because it's like, okay, you got this one, that's so cool, you got this one, that's fantastic. It's not an adversarial relationship. It's just like, which shirt am I going to wear today? I love all the shirts in my closet. They're not
Mhm.
angry at each other. We'll get to them all eventually. That's probably a terrible analogy, but that's what we
I
get today.
appreciated it. I liked it.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Are there any like unwritten rules for professional etiquette? I find that, once you get the job and you've been wanting the job for so long, you get to set and you're in another universe. So
Mhm.
what have you got about professionalism and building these relationships?
I mean, stay out of the way. Don't make so again, it's a moving train. It's a very, very special day for you as a guest actor to be there. For them, it is another day at work, and they have to make their day, and they're behind schedule, and they're spending too much money, and like, not in a terrible way, but just, don't make it about you.
Hmm.
It's not about you. Your job is to serve the project. Um, don't fawn over the actors.
Bring your
Don't
autograph book.
Yeah. Also, one thing that I've learned now, having worked on roles of varying sizes, is that like, series regulars may, depending on the show, have some flexibility to change a line, to make a suggestion. If you're there for one day, you do not have that flexibility, unless there's really an issue, in which case you can ask. You can say, I'm struggling with this, can someone help me? But like, a regular can say, I hate this line, can I say blah, 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 and they will, tell them if they can or they can't. You do not get to do that if you're there for one episode. And some people overstep. They try and, I don't know, make themselves seem more important, or just serve the project. It's not there to serve you, you're there to serve it.
You'd think this was assumed, that people should know this, but it's not obvious to everyone. So it's really nice to hear from a seasoned professional that this is what you do and this is what you don't do. So
I mean, and most of us do those things, but once in a while you will see someone where you'll be like, wow, you really, like, I was on a set once with an actor who was on one episode and brought her laptop and hid it on the set, and between takes was pulling out her laptop and like working on it on the set. She got fired. Far be it for me to guess at the psychology behind what people do on set sometimes, but like, don't be weird.
that's good advice.
Don't be weird.
That's great. You have over 50 credits on your IMDb. You've been working for a long time on lots of different projects. How have you seen the industry change, especially now with COVID and everything going virtual? Have you seen an ebb and flow of how the industry works?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember when I first got to LA, the illegal breakdowns thing, we were all getting illegal breakdowns. I met a woman in a Jack in the Box in Hollywood. She was wearing a disguise, like a wig and sunglasses, and I slipped her cash under the table. And I would get the breakdowns faxed to me every morning. Like, it's just bizarre. And our headshots were black and white. And if you had red hair, there was a stamp that said redhead that you stamped because red hair photographed as very dark. Like, it's just hard to believe when I say it, but that is how it was. for a while I was in a fake management company. So a bunch of actors got together, got a logo, put a name on a management company. We hired a messenger service, and every day we all had each other's headshots, hard copy headshots, and we would go through the breakdowns, which we got illegally, and and email each other in the morning, please submit me for this, submit me for this, submit me for this. And we would stuff the envelopes and drop it off in the messenger service and get it. Like, we didn't have representation, so we just became our own manager.
Oh.
Amazing.
It would be harder. I'm sure someone's found a way to do it, but now that it's all online, I imagine it would be harder. Like, it's just nutty, the stuff when I think about how it's all changed. And now, I mean, I have the same hard copy headshots I've had for probably 3 years, because you don't use them. I always bring them to an audition. I'm like, do you want this? I'm like, no. Right. Obviously we have color headshots now, everything is online, and now we're self-taping all of our auditions. So, you know, we've become our own editors, lighting designers, sound designers. You know, I did an interview for Disney Channel. They sent me like a whole photography package. I have friends who've shot things in their homes where they get like a whole camera and lighting kits, and none of us have ever done anything like this before. I'm so tired of my own face from editing so many self-tape auditions. Like, I'm going to be so happy when we get to go into the room and all I have to do is the acting, and somebody else gets to like choose which take to send and put it all together. That's going to be really nice. I think I, like many people, have turned our focus much more to voiceover in the last year, because that never stopped. And so, you know, a good thing that's come out of this is that my voiceover setup, both technically at home and business wise, is way better, and that's been really fun to explore. And I can only imagine where it's going to go from here when I consider where we are today versus, you know, slipping a disguised woman at Jack in the Box cash under the table for voiceover.
Well, you absolutely have to be innovating the way that you're, you know, especially with changes, you know, a writer's strike or, you know, COVID, and not let what's happening in the world stop you.
Yeah.
So if this is this is what you want to do, there is a way. And, you know, 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet to, you know, do all the things that you do now. So it's actually easier. Just kidding. Not, I'm in some ways, not, you know.
In some ways it is. And on the flip side, like, I feel like sort of the tail end of the generations of actors who did not assume we had to be ready to make our own YouTube series.
Right.
Like, I feel like everyone after me comes out assuming like, oh yeah, I'm going to write and direct and produce my own series, and that's how people are going to know me. And I just sort of go, great. I don't want to. I'm sorry. I don't want to. Like, maybe someday I will. But I think it is easier in many ways and harder in many ways, because you have to wear so many more hats, whether it's creating your own series or like shooting your own auditions at home. That's not a thing we used to be able to do.
Right.
How have you been spending your time in quarantine? What's been keeping you busy?
Well, you know, the cats climbing all over everything. They are an endless source of entertainment. I'm also a big baker and a cook from before all of this. So that is, as soon as this all happened, I sort of, knowing myself, knew, okay, I have to find ways to stay creative or I'm going to lose it pretty quickly. So lots of cooking and baking. I think we're lucky in LA. We redid our backyard, which we'd been meaning to do for many years. And now it was sort of like, well, if we're going to be here and not leave, we may as well enjoy being outside. So that took a lot of focus and was a creative process. And, you know, I think we're lucky in LA to be in a place where you can be outside year round. So spending a lot of time outside, gardening, growing our own vegetables, you know, back when we were like, how do we get groceries? I was like, well, we better plant all our own stuff. Plant
Get some
pandemic gardens.
chickens.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm catching up on lots of TV. I've watched all the TV.
Ooh,
All
what
the TV. What's your
All of it.
favorite? Outside of stuff you're in.
Ted Lasso. I hope we have all watched
Yes.
Ted Lasso.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
I'm so happy that they have renewed that series. Thank you, Apple.
Yes. I have to turn my headphones down. You're on speaker now because my earbuds.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, we even watch in my house if we've had a bad day, we watch 5 minutes of it just to get over the hump. I mean, because we've watched it through twice and now we're just like little bits and pieces, so we can make it last. It's ridiculous.
I might go back and rewatch it just because. I also my husband and I are always in a looping rewatch of The West Wing because, like, I would put it in the same category as Ted Lasso in that it's a comfort thing. I know nothing terrible is going to happen. I know I can just sit back and I'm in good hands because everyone involved with it is so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And then also Great British Baking Show is in that category as well. So I'm always sort of rewatching something, and then I will try the new thing and whatever the new show is, and then if I hate it, I can stop and just go back to the things I already know I like.
Well, Coach Beard just had a baby in real life over in the UK. His wife, well, not him, but
Brendan
Ted.
Hunt.
Yeah,
he's an LA theater guy who I met sort of.
Kitty.
Your props are moving.
Yeah, an LA theater guy who is a co-creator of that show, which is so exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
And just had a baby.
Yes.
He's having a good year.
He definitely is. Yeah. So wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time to come on with us today and share your experiences. And, you know, we're excited to see more of you because we love you as an actor anyway, and your cat, of course.
Thank you. I think they assume they will be appearing beside me in any work I'm in from here on out.
Well, I think they want a percentage of, definitely.
For sure.
Okay. Thank you
so
again.
Much. It was really nice talking with you.
It was good to see you again off the red carpet and in the room. Yeah.
Indeed. Jordan, nice to meet you. I hope we get to meet in person someday.
I hope so. You're lovely and so talented.
Oh, thanks. Same. I mean, I haven't seen your work, but I will.
Trust me, she is.
I believe it.
She is. And she's been in a series that got canceled by Netflix, so she's been down that road too.
Yep. We've all been there.
Yep. Okay, stay safe and we will see you soon. Okay. Take care.